This is the greatest Monstera I've ever seen, and I know that because this Monstera is this Monstera. I'm at my friend Cal's house and he gave me a cutting from this plant over 3 years ago. But because the plant hasn't been staked and it's growing below the level of the pot, it's never going to reach the same size and glory as my plant unless you do this. This is called air layering, and it's the safest and maybe fastest way to propagate your plants. You only need a Ziploc bag, tape, and moss to get this done. With Cal's stem down here, we can't actually stake the plant anymore to make it grow upwards with larger leaves. The stem has twisted, curved, and turned to a point where it can no longer be straightened out, and any attempt to do so would probably just snap it in half. Air layering is the only option. Find a section of the stem with some new leaves. I'm looking at this section right here. It's just below about 5 or 6 leaves. On your plant, it may vary. Maybe 2 to 3 leaves might be best, so see what works for you. We are wrapping up 3 separate nodes inside the Ziploc bag. 3 sections of aerial roots will have access to the moss. You have a lot of flexibility with this potting medium. I prefer to use a mix of about 60% sphagnum moss and 40% tree fern fiber. You can use 100% sphagnum moss, perlite, or a mix of other water-retaining materials. Some people even air layer their typical potting soil mix. I suggest sphagnum moss or sphagnum moss mixed with some perlite for beginners, but feel free to experiment and see whatever works best for you. Think of your potting medium as a cozy blanket for your aerial roots. Once it's wrapped, you can start sealing the bag with tape. You do not want a perfect seal. Oxygen needs to get into the bag so that the roots can access it. You also need to leave a small space so that you can water the medium. Treat this like it's its own plant. You want to keep this consistently moist but never soaking wet. I'm going to trust Cal to keep the roots moist for a couple of weeks so that we can move on to the next step. Can I trust you?
Yes, you can trust me.
The next step is just waiting actually. Cal makes sure that the moss stays moist. I annoy him asking him for updates. We have a good system. If you can believe it, this is only after 20 days, so yeah, air layering is fast and easy. After a month and a half in total, the next step is to get this thing out of the bag. We need to get all of the rooting medium off of the roots. This is where using moss is kind of a pain because of how well it actually sticks to the roots. But the roots are amazing, and we're just going to spray off as much of the moss as we can for a better transition into soil. The roots should look perfectly clean. Planting an air-layered plant in a pot is always going to be a bit weird. I have this birch bark pole that's going to be the plant's climbing pole. So I'm just showing Cal how it's supposed to go in. The back of the plant is facing the climbing pole. It's traveling upwards like a hockey stick or the letter L, and the entire stem is going to be out of the pot. You want the stem out of the soil because this helps avoid bacteria getting into the stem, causing stem rot. Just the roots need to be below the soil. The stem doesn't have to be out of the soil, but it will be better for the health of the plant overall. So a bit of the soil at the bottom of the pot, just like always. Put the plant in and arrange it the right way. Get your Velcro plant tape or string or whatever you want to use to secure your plant to the climbing pole first. This makes the rest of the process a bit easier because the plant won't be shifting around as you're trying to get more soil in. Fill in the rest of the soil and ensure that any extra aerial roots are curved and put into the pot so that the plant can establish faster. For this, start at the tip of the aerial root and bend slowly, moving towards the base of the root. You might hear the protective skin of the root cracking. That's fine, just go slowly. You won't always use everything from your air layer, and that's okay. This was left over on the original plant, so we just cut it off, but you could also plant this and it will grow into an entirely new plant. Water your plant thoroughly. If Cal finds a space in his home or gives this plant some grow lights to match the level of light in my home, in about 2 years his plant will actually be around the same size as mine. Cal wanted to wave a bit more, so subscribe for more Cal.